Sorry, Michael, you on mute.
Yes, right. I got you now. Thank you very much, guys. It shows that you always need a co-host, right? A sidekick, as they will call it. Good afternoon once again, and welcome to our sports program, or weekend sports talk program, where we speak to the movers and shakers of sports, sportsmen, sportswomen, the administrators, coaches, whoever they are involved in sports. Welcome once again. Our special guest this afternoon is no stranger to the program. He is the president of the Grenada Cricket Association. He's also a vice president of Windward Islands Cricket and a director of Cricket West Indies. But today's focus will do a lot with cricket and the development of cricket, especially in Grenada. Obviously, it will have an effect on Windward Islands and West Indies, because the hope is that with the development of local cricket, that's cricket in Grenada, that it can spill into Windward Islands, West Indies, and possibly, Big Bash, IPL, etc., So our guest is Mr. Dwain Gill, who is the president of the Grenada Cricket Association. And it's coming in light of a recent one-day retreat hosted by the Grenada Cricket Association. And, obviously, Rudy, and, kudos to the Grenada Cricket Association, because not many associations do that sort of stock taking, as we'll say. It's important that they do have these sessions from time to time where, you get the other members, not just the executive, because I think the retreat also included members of the parishes, councils, the cricket councils, representatives from the various parishes, and having a say into what are the plans for the association. Many times, executive will get together, just decide what it is, and just tell them, well, here's what you have to do, But in this regard, I think there was involvement from, I saw photos, involvement from the various representatives. Let's welcome our special guest, as I indicated, is Mr. Dwain Gill, the president of the Grenada Cricket Association. Good afternoon to Mr. Gill. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Michael. Good afternoon to Rudian as well, and to all your viewers.
Yeah, and I guess just as an intro, I basically was correct in terms of the assertion of what the retreat was about.
Yeah, you said something there that we included the affiliates or the parishes. Well, the GCA, based on how it's constituted, is actually based on the parishes themselves, right?
Right.
We have elected members. Yes, we have a president, two vice presidents, secretary, treasurer, assistant secretary, but we do have one representative from each of the parish councils. So we have 7 additional representatives, and what we tried to do was to include another one. So we actually invited 2 representatives from each of the parish councils, because we realized that if we are to develop and get cricket back on track again, that would depend on the strength of not only the parish councils, but the parish councils in particular. Of course, the Ministry of Sports, all the clubs, schools, spectators, you name it. We have to get not only the buy-in, but we have to get the support from all the different stakeholders. So we saw it fit to include an additional rep to come and to share any solutions. Of course, many of them had a lot of problems and a lot of challenges. And we know all about all of the challenges, we as cricket lovers. So it was very interesting to hear from a parish perspective what were the various challenges, and then we seek to look at some of the solutions. And we don't have the solution to everything. Some of it is beyond us, and we really have to ask ourselves now, if we are serious about cricket, Some of the things that we spoke about, Michael, we really need support of others. You can't just sit down and say, well, Mr. Gill here would do something, or the association. But we really need the support of all of the stakeholders if we are to get cricket back where it is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. And important was the discussion that centered a lot on the development aspect of cricket in Grenada, and I saw a lot of focus on primary school, for example, under 15. Dwain, why you thought that it's important, but why there was so much focus on that aspect of development?
Yeah, well, if where we are now, right? We have how many players on the West Indies team? We don't have anyone. If we are serious, we have to focus there. Primary school cricket has not been in its existence. Well, I don't even know if we ever had primary school cricket, probably before my time. And we're talking about hardball cricket. And if we are to get players at the under 15 level, then under 19, and then onto the senior levels, we have to get them from the schools. What we've done in the past, we've depended on a program from Cricket West Indies, the Scotiabank cricket program in the past, which really dealt with, masses in the primary schools and softball cricket. We will start back a similar program with another sponsor within the next couple of weeks or so. That will be launched very soon. But that alone would not help us. If we are leaving out primary school cricket in terms of hardball cricket, it means that there's a fundamental gap that is missed there. So our players, when they go on to on the 15 level and on the 19 level, they would not be on par with, let's say, on the 15 player in the UK, in England or Australia or India, right? They will be behind. And that's what has been happening over the last couple of years. We do manage to produce one or two players, one or two exceptions. So you could have an Emmanuel Stewart. Now we have a Teddy Bishop. You have a Preston McSween. But in numbers, we're not going to get them simply because we don't have the primary school cricket at the hardball cricket at the primary school level. So we felt it had to be very, very important to look at that. So we will engage the Ministry of Sports, of course, the Ministry of Education, and the Grenada Union of Teachers, who we are told in the past had some form of primary school cricket. In fact, the GUT, they do it if it's track and field, they actually do it. So we need to do it here. We also felt that we do not have enough academies and grassroots programs. Now, a couple of years ago, the GCA had a grassroots program. In fact, it was a Cricket West Indies or West Indies Cricket Board at the time grassroots program. And we did implement it well. And that's why one of the reasons why we're seeing now players like Preston McSween coming through. Those guys, the same Emmanuel Strode I spoke about, we had that grassroots program in Carriacou as well. What we found was that as long as we don't have the funding for those programs would come to a halt. So we didn't have continuity. So what we want to do, we feel it is very, very important that we encourage private individuals, and we do have in St. David, we have Ray Duncan, we have Juna Murray in St. George, and very shortly you may hear another ex-cricketer launching a grassroots program as well in the north of the island. And so we've depended on those, and we need to encourage, ex-players to do things like that, and we will support in any way we can. But what we want also is that all of our parishes and the parish councils look to implement a grassroots program that would look at girls and boys, on the 11, on the 15. And that's one way of getting that generation of cricketers back playing cricket. Because if we don't have it on the 11s and the under 15s, we will not have cricketers at the under 19 level. And then by extension, we would not have a lot of cricketers at the senior level. So we felt it's important. And I want to commend the St. Mark Cricket Council and Old Boys Sports Club out of St. Mark. They've started a grassroots program just about 2 weeks ago. I think the first week they had as many as 65 children, girls and boys, attending the program. And last week they had 85. And what we did is to work with them, or we're trying to work with them. We've now secured some level of sponsorship in terms of uniforms for them. They don't know it yet, but I think the president knows, Johnson Richardson. And we want to support in that way. We cannot really run the programs ourselves, but we want the parishes, each parish, we want a grassroots program in each parish, and we feel that is the way to go. So if we have the primary school program and the grassroots program, we feel with coaches now, and we're talking about qualified coaches. Again, a couple of years ago, we ran foundation level coaches, level 1 coaches. We have over 30 level 1 coaches in the country. We have had a level 2 coaching program as well. So we have about 17 or 18 level 2 coaches. So what we're going to do now, and we've spoken to Cricket West Indies, we're going to run a level 1 coaching course at from March the 10th to the 12th. And just for about 20 coaches. And we want to ensure that we have enough coaches in all of the parishes so they can be a part of those developmental programs that we are having. So, Michael, in short, we have to do it from that level. Women's cricket as well, we have to look at that. And we said we're not just going to say we're doing it, but we're actually going to do it. We're actually going to implement. So we wanted to set some very realistic goals just for this year to ensure that we can implement, execute, and have something going and start back cricket again.
Just for some clarity, good day to you, Gordon. And Roger Duncan, he's asking what comprises the grassroots program?
Right. So when we talk about grassroots, we talk about outside of school. So I'll give you an example. St. Mark, for example, they would have Saturday morning programs, just like how you see it in football. So when we had it before, we looked at on the 15s and on the 17s. But what we want to encourage is that each parish would have on the 11s and on the 15s, kids coming out. We can provide a program in terms of the skills. So we look at the skills, batting, bowling, fielding, and we also have the personal development side. So we've done that in the past, and now we've seen St. Mark doing it, and we want everyone to look at St. Mark to see exactly what it is they're doing. And it's not easy. It's kind of expensive because you have to pay coaches. But essentially, want the younger generation coming out on Saturday mornings, and then you can have another day in the week, so that they can learn the skills and be ready for when we have our parish tournaments and so on. So that's what we really mean in terms of grassroots. We're talking about development programs, age group development programs. That's really what we're talking about.
Okay. The report said that the vice president of Cricket West Indies, Dr. Kishore Shalom, was in attendance at a retreat. How important was for Dr. Shalom at the level of Cricket West Indies to attend, to interact, and obviously give an input and listen to the concerns, the challenges, the plans of the Grenada Cricket Association?
Well, the fact that he was here for that day says a lot. So he came here, and it was very interesting because the same challenges that we have at Cricket West Indies, all the challenges that we have, it actually starts at this level. And he was able to speak to the delegates there to, just to show what is happening in other parts of the world and what is actually happening in the West Indies and what we need to do to get on par with the likes of the India and the Australia and of course England, just to name three. And the challenges that he spoke about at his level, which is the vice president of Cricket West Indies, is really about funding. Of course, I don't want to get into the funding model the ICC has, but it was stated in another forum that the Grenada Football Association perhaps gets more money from FIFA per year than Cricket West Indies would get from the ICC. I'm not talking about the Grenada Cricket Association. I'm talking about Cricket West Indies. And of course, we have the Windward Islands Cricket Board, and then we have the Grenada Cricket Association. So he was able to identify some of the challenges we have at the top, and also he was a president of the St. Vincent and Grenadines Cricket Association. So he also knows about the challenges. So he was able to speak to delegates, and the delegates were able to ask questions. And we felt that we know what we need to do, but of course we do need the support to do it.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because the funding aspect of it is critical for the development, the plans, whether it's domestic or whatever it is that you have. And I'm curious because coming out of the retreat, I noticed that quite a bit in stake for cricket, for Grenada in particular, for the rest of, let's say, the better part of 2023. Obviously, starting with the West Indies Championship starting in Grenada. Well, starting on Monday, but the Grenada leg starting on Tuesday. But looking at the domestic tournaments, if we can probably, before we even go on to the domestic tournament, I want to look a bit of the training aspect that you discussed, which include the coaching, the CWI level 1 coaching program, the engagement of the Grenada Umpires Association, and including the Windward Islands umpires, and implementing at least one training program this year in the areas of scoring and the Duckworth-Lewis Stern management system. Important enough, Dwain, because it's all part of the development process for Grenada Cricket Association.
Yeah. So with the coaches, I mentioned we're having a level 1, and if we are to get the children playing cricket, the days are finished where we have cricketers coming in and looking at past players and getting better. We have to have coaches now, and we want a situation where we have coaches in all the parishes, not just in St. George or in St. Andrew. We want coaches, so we feel it's very, very important that our coaches, even at the primary school level, that they have even a basic foundation course. And it's easy to do a foundation course by simply going onto the ICC website, and within an hour and a half or so, you can actually, someone like you, Michael, can do it within a couple hours and do a foundation course, right? But we have to have the coaching where the facilitators would come into the country. And of course, it was difficult to do that during the COVID time, but now we can. And we feel it's very important to start off at the level 1 and have as many level 1s as possible in the schools and in the parishes. And of course, they will go on to, those who are interested to go on to the level 2. There are other areas that we feel we need some training. The Umpires Association, in the past, they've tried to get umpires trained and so on. And for some reason, the interest is not there. And I shouldn't say everywhere, because in Karakou, we do have a couple umpires coming out and qualifying themselves. So we need to work with the Umpires Association to ensure that we have, even at that level or local level, we have qualified umpires. It takes some time, and for some reason, people are running away from umpiring. I don't know if the sun is too hot or whatever the case may be. So we do need umpires. When we have domestic tournaments, local tournaments, it's a challenge in getting qualified umpires umpiring our tournaments. You would have seen we had some T10 tournaments last year, and we had to actually invite umpires from St. Vincent to do those games. Sometimes the guys from Karakou can come across, sometimes they can't. So we're having some problems there. Scoring and Duckworth-Lewis, this thing has gone to another level now. You have a lot of the streaming, so you need competent scorers. So we've done courses in the past, and we want to continue doing those courses. These days, we don't play net run rate to decide a match. We do Duckworth-Lewis, and it's still not really good to see that we have in our local tournaments in our different parishes, and we don't have people doing Duckworth-Lewis. So we feel that we need to offer this training as well. Some like commentators, we understand that Pastor Worm is not here, and we having a challenge even in getting commentators for the match coming up. And we feel that we can offer, or we should offer, some level of training with commentators. We no longer have the Red Spurrier, and even Stevens is not around. He's overseas. And where does the next generation of commentators come from? Not everyone can make it in terms of playing. So some of us would have to go into some other areas, and commentators is one of the areas that we feel that we can train some people. So we do need people coming forward to assist and to be trained in these areas.
Well, yeah, indeed, a lot of work to be done, Dwayne. And I realized too that even the women have not been left out, because the women's development coaching program that you have target for the first quarter, the under 15 coaching clinics, and it seems to be something new, which probably you can use to explain to us, the 5 for Fun cricket in primary schools, Dwayne. If we can look at those 3 areas, including the women's development coaching program.
Yeah, we start with the women's first. Women's cricket, you see where it's going now. We have a lot of the women's cricket on television now. We have Afi Fletcher in the team, but if we continue like this, we probably wouldn't have anybody when she retires. So what we wanted to do, and we started a program last year, but of course we had our challenges and so on. We had some girls at Progress Park, but we want to do under 15 and under 19, and that will start in the middle of February, or the latter part of February, where we're going to have 2 venues, one at Progress Park and one perhaps at the stadium, and we're going to do 22 sessions in full, so that our young girls can have proper structured coaching sessions with qualified coaches. And we want to have that running for a couple months. And at the end of it, the 2 clusters that we've identified, they would play matches against one another. So that's a start, and the better ones will filter into the national team. But we do have to start. In fact, there's nothing saying that, in the schools, if you have a boys program, a cricket program, there's nothing saying that the girls cannot be a part of it. So for the 5 for Fun I'm speaking about, there's a sponsor attached to it, and we didn't put in the sponsor's name because that program will be launched. Essentially what it is, it's a similar version to what we have had before with the Scotiabank Kiddie Cricket. But there's a new brand that is going to be used. So it's going to be a situation where there's going to be coaching going on in the primary schools. We've identified a number of coaches in the Ministry of Sport that will go around and lend support to the PE teachers to ensure that the children are prepared to play a tournament. So it will be by zone. We have 6 zones, including Karakou. Karakou is one of the zones. We have a zone on the west, and then we have some of the parishes. So we will have coaches going around, assisting coaches in the primary schools, and they will end up playing a zonal tournament, and the winners would progress to a final. And the dates are to be finalized. We still have to go back to the sponsor to discuss it, to finalize the date. So we will be launching this program, which is supported by Cricket West Indies. So we're going to launch this program very, very shortly. And that should put some energy back into the primary school system. So we're actually looking forward to that, because we feel that, over the last couple of years, we've not only had the challenges with COVID, but we've had the challenges with the industrial action in the schools, both the primary and the secondary schools. And I'm sure it happened in all of the sports as well, but cricket is one of the hardest sports to get going again. So we are very excited about that program. We are going to have, you mentioned the under 15 coaching clinics.
Yeah.
Right. Now, we think that under 15 is the right place to start this. We're going to have it at under 19s as well. So, Michael, we sent a team. We had a team participating in the Winlot under 15 tournament earlier this year. And, in December. And, Grenada, for the first time, in a long time. I think we had a poor showing, and it wasn't the fault of the children playing. In fact, we had a very young team, and we managed to get one player on the Windwards team, and St. Lucia, for example, got 7 players. Now, just before COVID, before this tournament, before COVID, the last tournament we had at the Windwards level, Grenada won the tournament, got 7 picks, and St. Lucia got 1. This time it was reversed. Now, we had nothing at the under 11 or the under 15 level for 2 years. Not only because of COVID, but simply because of the industrial action in the school. So when we wanted to have our under 15 tournament, what the parishes told us was that they could not have gotten players because normally they would have gotten it from looking at the schools tournament and selecting the players from the schools. That wasn't to be for the last 2 years. So these players came in or went into tournaments. Yes, we called them out to training, and there were challenges as well. We could not get any grounds. We had bad weather. We could not have an inter-parish tournament. I don't want to harp on the problems. What we're looking at is the future now. So what we are doing now is, well, we are happy for one that the schools tournament is starting back. So we know since last week we had the under 19 tournament, independence tournament in the schools. A lot of the under 15 players are actually playing there as well. And we are told that the under 15 tournament will restart in the schools as well, sometime around May. Right? We will have our inter-parish tournament as well in July. And then we're going to have some trial matches, best versus best matches in August, just before the school starts back in September. What we want to do is to take these players after they will have come through these tournaments and these training sessions, and we want to place some emphasis on their development. So we're going to have some under 15 coaching clinics where we will have the best 26 under 15 players, and we are going to give them the best training possible, right? Batting, bowling, fielding, but we want to look at physical fitness, and we also want to look at mental skills as well, because that is important even from the under 15 level. We're going to have that and have them come in on weekends sometimes at the stadium, and we're going to have them live in for a couple of weekends, and we're going to send them back to go to school. But we want to ensure that what happened to us at the under 15 level recently will never happen to us again. You know, Grenada has been the leading youth sporting cricket team at all levels over the last few years. And, you know, to see our team struggling like that, it was kind of embarrassing, but we knew the reasons, but we had to send a team, and we did it anyway. But this has to be a thing of the past. We no longer have the excuse of COVID. So we have to put this in place to ensure that we get the best out of our under 15 players. And when we do that, they will go on to under 17, under 19, and ultimately into the senior ranks.
Mm-hmm. And Dwain, I'm glad you mentioned that, because and it appears it could be something to ensure that in the event, the unlikely event that something like that happened again, where you're looking at the schools as a sort of feeder program, that you have something that is consistent, and even if there's an interruption at the school, because you have a core of players at the, whether it's on the 11, on the 12, or on the 15, the age group, I should say, because obviously if it's age group, it means from the school, that you wouldn't find yourself in a similar situation as was the case when the teachers had their action, right?
Yeah, definitely. And we do have, Michael, we do have our tournaments at under 15 and under 19 on a regular basis, huh? But you see, it's easier at under 19 because you would have seen guys from under 15. But when you don't have to get the under 15 players, some of the parishes had the challenges. They really didn't know, and you know, we called out players, and players didn't come, and players had challenges, of course, with transport and whatnot, and nothing was happening in the parishes. So yes, in the event that there's no schools cricket, we still want to ensure that we do have a core of players in which we can choose from and which we can train to represent Grenada.
Mm-hmm. Right, important. And it's indicated in the coming out of the retreat that 4 of the parish councils, will have their tournaments in the first quarter of the year. But in addition to that, Dwain, so many other things, as if I can just look at them, the GCA Under 19 Cup, the best of best Under 19 series, the best versus best, well, the best versus best Under 19, the best versus best women's series. There's the Dream 11 Spice Isle T10 that is returning, the GCA Super 50 Cup, the GCA Under 15 Cup, and the GCA Best versus Best Under 15 series. So quite a bit for the Under 15, the age groups, something for the women, and of course, there's at the senior level as well. Doing a loaded program of activities for cricket in Grenada for 2023.
Yeah, you see, what's important is the tournaments. So we have the training, but if you train and there's nothing to put into practice, then you're going to have a problem, right? So we have to ensure that all the levels from the under 15s, of course, the under 11s and so on with the primary school, Fight for Fun, and hopefully from 2024, the ministry would have some level of primary school hardball competition. But we have to ensure that we give each of the groups tournaments and enough cricket to play. Of course, we believe that the under 15 guys should be playing club cricket, right, at the senior level. That's what we did, and we got better by playing with the seniors. But we do have to have it, so we want to get back to that. In the past, we've had it. We've had our under 15, under 19, and our senior competitions. So we just going back to that, and we just added the best versus best, which is really from these competitions, taking the best players and having them undergo a series of matches. It could be a minimum of 5 matches, just to make sure that they are playing at a higher standard, so that when we have to select our national team, our selectors can look at the best. So the tournaments are important. We did have in even during COVID, we were one of the few associations to have cricket. We had our T10 Dream 11, and there are some big plans coming up for that. We're going to have that in April to May. In fact, the start date will be April 25th, and then we end on May the 9th if all things go according to plan. And there are some new innovations there which we would launch. We would speak about a little bit later on. So we did have that during COVID times, but we didn't have at the parish level. That is where we didn't have anything at all. So we actually getting back to that. Women's cricket, we haven't been good at it, and we feel that if we can't get it at the parish level, we can get the best players in the country in a series as well. So we have to have that as well. So we do plan to implement everything. So we didn't want to just go and sit down and talk about things in a meeting. We wanted to put down something very realistic. So we're going to have these tournaments.
Mm-hmm. Important enough, Dwain, where is Karakou is into all these plans? So, Karakou has had its fair share of exploits, including Emmanuel Stewart, for example. But and then in and between, we noticed that there's some good prospects, talents coming out of the sister isle. So where's Karakou in all these plans?
Yeah, Karakou will be involved in everything that we just spoke about, except the women's program. So one of the challenges we have with Karakou, as everybody would know, would be the transportation. And we have included Karakou in the past. It might not have been for the duration of the tournament, but certainly for under 19 and senior, and of course under 15 as well. Karakou has come to Grenada. Some teams have gone to Karakou. So that will continue. In fact, even the rep from Karakou, Mr. Brian White, he's the president of the Karakou United Cricket Board. He's had his challenges. And what we've decided to do is to make sure that, he will be participating in all our meetings. And, it's very interesting because we invited a second person from Karakou and they didn't actually come. But they're part of the plans, and we're going to make more visits to Karakou in terms of the training programs. We have done it in the past, and we intend to continue doing it. But it is a matter of getting the teams, when we have the tournaments, is getting the teams to Grenada. Who bears that cost? That is the issue we're having with Caracol. But they are part of all of the plans we're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's always an issue when it comes to Caracol's participation and involvement in sports in the mainland, whether it's football, cricket, even athletics. It always has to do with the cost factor in terms of getting them there. Going back to the retreat, there was a question asked about who actually were invited to participate, like were there schools or are there plans to involve others in future retreats?
Yeah, no, this was the first one, and if there are calls to have another one at mid-year around July. So this was a planning. So we wanted to plan our events. So it was really the members of the Grenada Cricket Association, which is the 7 elected members, and then the 7 parish reps. What we did was to invite an additional parish rep. So these were the invitees. It was just about 20 people in total. So we will have further engagements with different stakeholders at different times. Our association is constituted based on parishes, 7 parish councils, including Caracol. And so this is where we wanted to start. We have to start here first, and then we will get to a stage where we will have the different stakeholders involved. And as I said, we are expected, or we've been told by the affiliates that we need to do more of these. They felt it was very useful, and we need to do more. So we plan to have another one in July, but it should be something that we're going to have every 2 years. But the first one is just the affiliates. So there were 21 people involved.
Mm-hmm. Dwain, before we go on to the regional aspect of it, I wanted to touch on the other issue that has to do with a lot on governance, and it's something that is also big when it comes to Cricket West Indies. So I assume that would have been an important discussion at the level of the retreat, the governance at the GCA level. Talk a bit about what was actually discussed and outcome of that discussion.
Yeah. So first of all, when we look at our constitution, we realize it was outdated, right? We're not operating in line with the present day successful modern non-profit sporting associations, because we are non-profit, right? And we have to catch up. So we said that we have to set up a committee to look at or review the constitution, and they would implement, or they would provide some recommendations. And we want to have an AGM, because we normally have a biennial meeting, but we want to have an AGM in November where we can implement the changes in the constitution to make it in line with modern sporting non-profit organizations. Right? That's the first thing. And I can go through a list of things that we have that isn't really, it's not modern. It's not modern. So we have to look at that. And also we don't have on paper a strategic plan. We may have it in our heads, but we don't have a strategic plan. And we have to do it, even if the term of the president is for 2 years, right? We have to do it. So that is what the discussion was about. When we look at our parishes, for example, we noticed that some of them are not even registered, right? And these days, if you are acquiring any funding from any serious entity, even someone in the private sector, you have to show certain things. So the parishes are complaining about funding, and they're not able to acquire funding. So simple things like that we have to put those things in place to ensure that we really are serious about what we are doing. So the discussion was about that. We have some issues with some of the parishes. St. John, for example, has not really been involved. There's one gentleman who tries his best, but we cannot seem to find a leadership group coming out of St. John. And if you want to implement programs in St. John, yes, we know it's football, basketball, track and field, but you must be able to have a few cricketers coming out of St. John. So we want to address that situation as well. And we want to continue working with the Windward Islands Cricket Board and Cricket West Indies just to ensure that we're in line with what is happening, and we have our systems in place to really to get to the next level.
Yeah, because and at the same time too, Dwain, I was just indicating in terms of the participation, the attendance of the while you were speaking regarding the retreat, on the monitor there, you're seeing the participants at the head table. I'm seeing yourself, Dr. Shallow, and I think Kerry Frank is the bald-headed guy facing us there, to the back, and then the participation. It seemed as if it was well intriguing in terms of discussions, right?
Yeah,
engaging as well.
Yeah, we probably have to pay the some overtime because we wanted to leave there, and we spent an extra hour and a half there. But it was, and in hindsight, probably it should have been 2 days, but there's a cost factor, Michael. So it was, and I think the participants said the change of environment. Normally we have monthly meetings at the stadium, and one of the conference rooms at the stadium, and we do have a lot of discussion. You may not see a lot happening within the last year or so, but we do have a lot of discussions. But we felt that we needed to get away and really sit down to assess where we were and how to get back.
Yeah, Dwain, going back to the whole issue of the registration of the parish councils, because I think it's something where even I think at the level of the sports policy, for example, that they are ensuring that affiliates of sporting associations are fully registered and compliant, etc., etc. Is that's where is headed?
Yeah. That's what we wanted to do. We want to ensure that the parishes are registered first, and then the clubs after, right? But interestingly, some of the clubs are actually registered. Some of the leading clubs are actually registered, but the parishes are not. So that's what we wanted to do, and the parishes have indicated we've given them till November. We didn't just want to say it, but we've given them till November to get to put that in place.
Let's move on now, because important enough is that starting on Tuesday of next week, God's willing, we have the Grenada leg of the West Indies Championship. In fact, it is the first round, Windward Islands Volcanoes versus Red Force and Tobago. That's a big game at the Grenada National Stadium, Dwain. But before we go on to that aspect of it too as well, it was indicated that in terms of the selection, that for the first time in many years, Devon Smith, and by the way, Devon is actually on listening to the program this afternoon. Devon Smith will not be donning the colors or the uniform of Windward Islands, probably the first time in about 20 years, barring injuries or whatever it is like that. So before we go on to speaking about the tournament itself, certainly from the Grenada Cricket Association, congratulations, happy retirement to Devon Smith.
Yes, definitely, Michael. I mean, I don't think we can replace Devon on the field. So he's, like anybody else, he's called it a day and looking to do other things. I did mention something earlier about
the academy.
I wouldn't get it. Yeah. I'll let him discuss that. I was supposed to call Devon yesterday. Something has arrived for him concerning that academy, but
no. To be honest with you, he mentioned it on the program sometime last year. We had him on the program, and he did mention that's some of the plans. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, he's done quite a lot, and I know Devon wants to get into coaching and giving back. And I know he's making some arrangements to have that academy going. Of course, we will support in any way we can. And it's good to see Devon, trying to do something like that. And I wish that other ex-players, a lot of them are very critical of what is happening in cricket. And they have the skills. Of course, you'd want to listen to a Devon Smith when it comes, especially with batting. And I think Devon has a role to play. We've had him just assisting our under 15 coach when we had the West Indies under 15 tournament earlier. Well, in last year, we had him assisting, so we had him around and involved. And I know he's getting ready. So Devon, for his contribution towards Grenada and Windwards cricket, of course, he did play test matches as well. We want to wish him his best in his retirement and his endeavors, of course, to not to leave cricket, because we know he will be heavily involved.
Certainly a fixture for Windward Islands cricket for so many years, and as I indicated, barring injuries, and I can't recall when last Devon was out of cricket due to injury. It's kind of unique. We had people like Devon and even Canadian players, something about the fitness, Dwain. I don't know what about the fitness when you look at Junior Murray and Ron Luce and all these others. It's only probably now we have some of the younger players that have been plagued by injury, but somehow these older guys, they played for many years without that, injury scare. Okay. So in terms of preparation, Dwain, for the 2 rounds of matches to be hosted by the Grenada Cricket Association under the auspices of Windward Volcanoes and Cricket West Indies, how are things going for Tuesday's opening round?
Yeah, things are in place. Michael, I think in certain sections of the media regionally, there is some controversy in terms of Grenada getting these matches. But I think it's all about, there are a lot of logistical issues around the region. And I think last year, this tournament was played in Trinidad. I think all the teams went to Trinidad. This year, we're using Antigua and Grenada for the first 2 rounds of matches. And that has a lot to do with the travel arrangements. Luckily for us, Caribbean Airlines, I don't want to give them a plug, but luckily for us, we have some flights that, in terms of the teams that have to play, our route is convenient, and the Caribbean Airlines situation is convenient. So where we sit, we're happy where we are. I'm looking out at the field now, and we're looking pretty good. We've had matches here within the last 2 weeks. We had the Windwards Volcanoes best versus best matches, which was a kind of a test. The surface, the wicket played pretty good. Of course, during those matches, we had Ken Crafton coming in to look at the conditions on the field, the pitch and field, and there were some recommendations sent to us. So we actually aborted one of the days of the last day of the best versus best matches to allow the curator here, the head curator or the ground staff, to work on the surface, the square, right? So we are preparing 2 strips on the square, and we expect to have a good cricket wicket. I think the first thing with these matches, and I think the whole of the Caribbean is going to be looking at Grenada on that streaming come Tuesday the 31st. They're going to look to see how the wicket is playing, and we have to remind them of what happened with the test match series against England. The last time we played England, where we had some docile tracks around the Caribbean, in Antigua in particular. But when we came to Grenada, of course, we had the best surface here. So we don't expect anything different. The ground staff, they've been working feverishly. We are preparing the nets as well. In fact, the Volcanoes were using the nets up to yesterday. And the Trinidad and Tobago team, they arrived today, if they're not here already. And they will practice tomorrow, and the Windwards will practice tomorrow as well. Trinidad and Tobago in the morning, and the Windwards in the evening. They will have another practice session on Monday. So we feel the nets are equally important. Of course, we have to put some emphasis there as well. There are some logistical issues, as is the norm with these tournaments, but we are ready. And come 10 o'clock on Tuesday, we expect, weather permitting, because we seem to be having some, this is a dry season, but we seem to be having some rain about. But we expect to have good cricket. Michael, it's difficult in terms of spectators coming in. You would notice we don't have a promotion budget. But even with a promotion budget, it is difficult. It has been difficult for people to come out on Tuesday. The match is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Um, it is difficult, but we have it being streamed. So you can look at the Cricket West Indies social media platforms, YouTube, etc. Matches will be streamed. So we are ready as usual. We've done this before on numerous occasions, and we have been successful. And I'm not seeing anything that suggests otherwise.
Yeah, and it's also an opportunity for folks who will want to come out and see the players, the the quality players from the West Indies, both the Windward Islands Volcanoes and the Trinidad and Tobago Red Force. And Dwain, you were saying so many things that there, and you left it for last in terms of the weather, because everything is weather permitted when it comes to cricket, especially in the Caribbean. But you started off by saying about the controversy, Dwain, but when Grenada doesn't get a game, doesn't get a match, I mean, why Dwain and others be quiet, silent, and there's no controversy from the Grenada Cricket Association in terms of, we should have gotten it. And, I wonder why every time it comes to probably Grenada, there's some sort of controversy in terms of who should get it, blah, 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 and things like that. We don't make a lot of noise when we don't get it.
Well, Michael, we were asked to do this, and I know the reason why. It's about the logistics of it, and it would have been easy for us to say that we couldn't do it, but we want to help West Indies cricket, so we had we accepted the matches. We know there are a lot of events around the stadium at this time. Perhaps maybe not this time, but maybe in February. Of course, we have the independence celebrations, and the second match is actually from the 8th. Yeah, but I wouldn't get into all of that. We were offered, and we had no real hesitation. We just had to find out if the venue was available, and it was, and we're going to do that. But Michael, just to get back to Tuesday and the matches, the match days, admission is free. We want to encourage everybody to come out. We've invited the schools. We're not sure if they would come because I think the Ministry of Sports had a schools tournament last week, and one school couldn't play because they had heats. So it's the athletic or track and field season as well. So everyone is really, really busy, but we've invited the schools, and we expect that those of us, not us, but those who are not working, would come around, and those of us who are working, we would leave maybe during our lunch period or free period and come and go back to work, and so on and so forth. So we have it designed that no hassle at the gate. You come in and you can see cricket, because you see, the thing about it, Michael, is that when we have the test match or the international matches, right, everyone wants to come. Of course, you have the stars playing, but where do the stars come from? Is it at this level, right? So we want people to see, even though it's during the week, the likes of a Preston Maxwell, the likes of Alec Atanas, who has done very well, a new captain, the likes of Sonny Lambris and others. I may have to call it the whole team, because if the guys are listening, they would feel, oh, I'm favoring Alec and whatnot. But
certainly you should probably go do that. Take the honors and do it at some stage.
Yeah. So we want to ensure that everyone has a chance to see the local guys, and all of the guys are local, because remember, the guys actually train here in Grenada. The guys, they rent apartments here, and they're here on a daily basis. You will see them walking through town in the Volcanoes uniform sometimes, right? So they're actually home players, apart from the local players. And we have one announcement to make. We probably make it on Monday. Bad news in one quarter, but good news for another Grenadian who's been drafted into the team because of the injury of another one. But we will make that announcement on Monday, when we've notified all the parties concerned. So we want to encourage everyone to come out and look at the cricket. The second match is against Guyana from
Well,
the eighth.
but Dwayne, and I was about to say, because you have, I mean, well, I mean, all the teams are good, but I mean, quality opposition, because you have the Red Force, and then you have the Happy Eagles from Guyana, which is your second game starting on the 8th of February. So, I mean, you expect to see good competition, good cricket among the competing teams.
Yeah, definitely. Trinidad and Tobago, a very strong team. I think Darren Bravo is the captain, and you have a number of players there vying for West Indies selection. You have like a Jeremy Solozano, you have Yannick Correa, a couple of these guys who are knocking on West Indies selection. Iman Khan, the leg spinner, is also there. There's no Jaden Seals, of course, he's injured, and Shannon Gabriel has gone with the senior team. But they do have a number of players, so we're hoping that the Trinidadians who couldn't make it to Trinidad for Carnival and they are here, and they will come out and support. We don't want to have a one-sided type of atmosphere here. So we're hoping that the Trinidadians will come out to support their boys as well. And then in the second match, Ghana, that match actually starts on the 8th, which is the Wednesday, the day after independence, and would finish on the Saturday. And then say finish on Saturday, we feel that the wickets that we've prepared, yes, there's something in it for the bowlers, but we feel that the teams, all of the franchise teams, have been training really, really hard, and we feel that the matches should go 4 days. The matches should go 4 days. So the last day would be the Saturday, the 11th, where we will invite the academies as well, and the grassroots programs like in St. Mark and the Junior Mary Academy. We're going to invite those, and at lunchtime, we're going to have them on the field and so on, playing on the field. So it's two strong teams. All the teams are strong this year when you look at them on paper, and they have a lot to play for, because a lot of vacant spaces in the West Indies team, in the West Indies Test team. And this is 4-day cricket. This is red ball and white clothing. This is the traditional cricket. And there are some spots there that are up for grabs. One of those spots, we were hoping that Sherman Lewis would have gotten those spots, but unfortunately, Sherman has sustained an injury, and he's recovering, so he's not in the squad. But we do have a strong team. Volcanoes, I would say, is a very strong team, and we're hoping that we can have a good match against Trinidad and Tobago first, and then Ghana from the 8th to the 11th of February.
Mm-hmm. And any plans to use the opportunity for the opening game, probably to officially say farewell to Devon?
We didn't. We did it in Trinidad, but you're making a very good point, because we were hoping last year that we would have gotten matches in Grenada, and we were hoping that for his last match in Grenada we could have done it. That wasn't to be. He played his last match in Trinidad, and we did actually present his cap, and his plaque and whatnot to him in Trinidad. I was actually there for the occasion. The president of Windwards, Dr. Shallow, was there as well. And we still wanted it to be here. But Michael, you've given us a very good idea. So we have 2 matches here. So it's something that perhaps we can look at. I'm sure Devon will be around for a couple of the days. So it's something that we can look at. What we will do, though, is to perhaps have a moment's silence for the late Owen Shillingford, who's just passed away, the former Dominican Windward Islands and Combined Islands player.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, Combined Islands. He played more matches for Combined Islands than just a few for the Windwards. Of course, we want to extend condolences to the family of Owen Shillingford, and also the cricket community in Dominica, especially. Liam Sebastian is the manager of the Windward Islands team, and of course the captain of the team is also Dominican in Alec Atenas.
Mm-hmm. On a final note, Dwayne, there's been talk about we have been hearing that for quite a while, the lighting at the cricket stadium. it seems as if there's some effort being made now to get this on board. And with the West Indies due to host the World T20, at some stage, preparations already in place, Dwayne. And I'm certain that, with all that is being done, the Grenada Cricket Association has that as a possibility for Grenada, to be a venue for a World Cup T20. What sort of engagement do you think the Grenada Cricket Association may want to have with government to ensure that this is a reality in terms of the lighting of the cricket stadium?
Engagement. I think, as you said it, I think the plan is there. I don't have a lot of information as to any timelines or anything like that, to be honest, Michael. But definitely, you'd want to encourage that, because you would miss out on opportunities in the future. Sometimes you're okay, because if it's a market in Asia, let's say India, for example, having it in the morning, games in the morning, daytime is okay. But if you're gonna talk about short form cricket and exciting cricket, the day will come where we will miss the boat. We will miss the boat if we haven't missed it already. So definitely, anything that we can do to encourage that, we are for it. And of course, all of the documents, everything would go to the government of Grenada, and then the government of Grenada would have to make a determination as to what it is they would have to go for. We have this year, we have India in the Caribbean in July, and then we would have England in December. And I'm not sure that we are in a position to to bid for those games. I'm not sure how much of those games require lights and whatnot, but those offers always come to Grenada, and of course we want to be in a position where we can have everything in place so that we can be looked at favorably in terms of the lights and those types of things. That's all I can really say about it, Michael.
Okay, because according to the ICC, the West Indies and the United States, are the hosts for the T20. That's the World T20 men's World T20 in 2024, which is next year. So the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024, West Indies and the USA. Certainly, is something that we can look forward to and monitor and probably keep their feet on the fire. It's time for that, stadium to be lighted, because I'm certain, Dwayne, is something we have been hearing for quite a while, and it's something that the Cricket Association will gladly welcome.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Yeah. All right, Dwayne, anything else that we want to speak about? I know that the main focus now will be on ensuring that everything is in place for the start on Tuesday. In terms of that, you mentioned some of the logistics that involve, and hopefully looking at everything to ensure that all systems are go, probably barring weather, for the start of the West Indies Championship.
Yeah, just to say that, come support the boys. They have been working really, really hard. We have a good team, good young players, so we want you to come out. From the GCS perspective, in terms of the plans that we have in place, Michael, I hope sometime in the not too distant future, you would allow me or someone from the association to come back to let you know what we've implemented based on our plan, because we don't want to have something we're saying we're doing it and we don't do it. But one of the issues or problems, and it's good that, Michael, you are in the diaspora and you know equipment, and probably would have to have some drive to get some equipment for a lot of the grassroots programs we are talking about within the parishes, not necessarily for the Cricket Association, but a lot of the people that are saying that they want to do these little programs, there's an issue with equipment, amongst others. So maybe we can, I know you've done a lot, Michael, when it comes to track and field. But cricket is the most expensive sport, right? And that's one of the reasons why you find that, when people get up on a Saturday, it's easier for a parent to send their child to football or to
Understandably.
track and field, buy a pair of boots, a pair of spikes.
Mhm.
Right. So Michael, thanks for having me. And as we said, we're going to reset. We're resetting and we're going to restart cricket in 2023.
Yeah, very much appreciate Dwain, and always a pleasure. And as you indicated, at some time in the very near future, you or the Grenada Cricket Association, let's say, will be back to give an update as to where you are in terms of the plans and whatever developed during that time. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Michael.
You're welcome. Okay, so folks, you heard it there from the president of the Grenada Cricket Association, Mr. Dwain Gill. He is also vice president of Windward Islands Cricket Board, and a director at West Indies Cricket, giving us an update on so many things that's happening at the level of the Grenada Cricket Association. It was interesting in the point that they had this retreat, and coming out of the retreat, there was, a media release outlining what was discussed, and and photos, etc. And I'm not sure if it's not that everyone has to do that, but this is very commendable, because we hear a lot about, but Grenada Football Association, and those that have the funds, as we would say, as Dwain indicated there, the sort of money that the Grenada Football Association will get from FIFA is much more than probably what Cricket West Indies will get from ICC. Well, probably minus, let's say, media rights and TV rights and things, blah blah blah. But in terms of development, what it says, and look what they have been able to do. A retreat. Yes, anybody can hold a retreat and discuss, but have something there, and we can at least monitor what they say they are doing, have the engagement, their plans to bring cricket back to the primary schools, for example, is something we have been talking about on this program, where people say unless we bring the cricket at the school level, the primary schools, we wouldn't see, or we will continue to have the sort of results we have at the Western level. Well, here is what the Cricket Association says it's doing now. Here are their plans. Give them the support. That's what's needed. I'm hoping that the schools, the ministry in particular, well, now that we have education and sports as one ministry, will be able to collaborate with the Grenada Cricket Association. He also mentioned the Grenada Union of Teachers, a very important component and stakeholder in that process, because as you recall, when we had the industrial action a few years ago, well, just prior to COVID, it was through the Grenada Union of Teachers. So if you could have that sort of collaboration at the early stages, important for the development. And Karaku is not, as indicated, is still in the mix. It's just that the whole issue of logistics, the women, and girls in particular, they're also part of the whole program there, and a lot to do with coaching. He mentioned the whole issue of umpiring, for example, commentating, and he did indicate about Pastor Worm, and I want to wish Pastor Worm a speedy recovery, as he seeks medical attention. And the hope is that we can get some, more folks making themselves available in whatever area, scoring, umpiring, getting to understand more about the game, the cricket. We have a lot of, as they call it, armchair supporters and people who believe that they can select every single team, whether it's a Grenada team, a Windward Islands team, or a West Indies team. But, giving them the opportunity to, to make a contribution, no. Yeah. But the biggest motors, all because of social media, it's easy to stay behind your phone or your computer and blah, 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 blah. But when it's you're given the opportunity to make a contribution, you're mute, So, and including the opportunity to, even the admission is free, even if the admission is free. And then they will still decide or determine who should be playing for Windward Islands and who should be playing for West Indies and, blah, 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 and things like that. So, and here you have the opportunity to see the cricketers, see how they're batting, see how they're bowling, live and live in color, to have your assessment, Yeah. So, folks, thanks very much once again. Thank you to Dwain and the Grenada Cricket Association. I thought it was quite revealing in some of the things that they discussed, including the whole issue of governance. I think it's something that has been plaguing sporting associations time after time, and given the opportunity, the engagement, and the opportunity for the affiliates to engage, the association, most times you have these meetings at the sporting level, the national level, and it's all confrontational. But you have the opportunity where you can sit down and discuss the future, and they have their input, in terms of that. So everyone at the parish level, for example, they know what is taking place. They know what is to be done, and we spoke about a strategic plan, for example. I saw continuing to work with Windward Islands Cricket Board and Cricket West Indies, as he says, to champion the cause of cricket. Very important, as well as I mentioned that in particular because I know it's important, the ensuring that all parish councils are registered, and they give a timeline by the end of November of this year. And I'm certain the lesson of the Boxing Association of Grenada cannot be repeated in terms of cricket, etc. Club licensing is also important. I know the Football Association has been doing that for quite a while, because it's so important that when you registered for example, in football, a registered club, meaning that if a club is registered to the Grenada Football Association, in the event that a player from that club gets a professional contract, goes off to play in Europe, for example, there's so many things that will take place. He gets a big contract, for example. The club benefits because the club is registered. If the club is not registered, it's highly unlikely that the club will get anything. It's very important for the level of Grenada Football Association, CONCACAF, and FIFA, because there will be the interaction between club to club. For example, with a club in Europe, just using an example, my club, Manchester City, corresponding with Queen's Park Rangers, in Grenada, because one player from Queen's Park Rangers has a contract with Manchester City, and how the club would benefit if the club is not licensed. A lot of legal things that, challenges and things like that. So, so it's important that the clubs, the parishes, the parish councils, the affiliates be registered. And, and it also begs for, the whole development in terms of club structure, where you have your president or chairman and working, structure, executive, When you do that, you're also preparing for national, contribution at the national level. So the president or the secretary of, let's say, a club in Lafayette may want to, aspire to be the president of the parish council, and later on probably challenge Dwain, president of, the Grenada Cricket Association. But on a serious note, that is how you move up You know, you get the experience from that level. So when you get to the top, you at least have an idea of how things are done. And, you know, many times we find people just get into the fore without any of that sort of experience at that level. And they're hoping to, as we'll say, work miracles. Folks, that's all for this weekend. Let me tell you that come next weekend, God's willing, we'll have the president of the Intersecondary Schools Association for Jamaica, that's ISA, and we'll be talking about school sports, well, not just track and field. We know ISA deals a lot with track and field in Jamaica, but it's not just track and field, it's all secondary school sports. And why? Because we have had a number of student athletes, not just from Grenada, but Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, also England, Uganda, and Nigeria and Kenya, that's from Africa, who are student athletes who are attending schools in Jamaica, not just track and field, but they play football as well as cricket, for what I can tell you. And, you know, the president of ISA, Keith Wellington, will be discussing with us, you know, all about that and why Jamaica is becoming the hub for tertiary education to an extent, especially for our student athletes. Even the Jamaicans are now staying home to train and to compete. You know, not many of them heading over to the United States as we know they used to do many years ago. We've seen a lot of even the professional athletes, they are now returning to Jamaica. So we'll be speaking to the president of ISA, Keith Wellington, about that and why so many of our, you know, Caribbean student athletes are now turning to Jamaica rather than the United States. Folks, that's all for this weekend. Certainly it was a pleasure, and I'm hoping to be with you next weekend, God's willing, Saturday, same time. It will be 1 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time. It will be high noon Eastern time in the US. Until then, do have a pleasant week.